People do not resist your idea because it is wrong. They resist it because it came from you. That is the part most men never understand. They think persuasion means explaining harder, arguing better, giving more reasons, showing more emotion, proving they are right until the other person finally surrenders. But in 1966, psychologist Jack Bremham gave this resistance a name: psychological reactance. The principle is simple, but brutal. When a person feels that their freedom is being threatened, they become motivated to restore that freedom. They resist the influence attempt, not always because the idea is false, but because obedience feels like submission. So understand this clearly. People do not protect truth first. They protect autonomy first. This is why your advice can be correct and still be rejected. This is why your warning can be accurate and still be ignored. This is why your vision can be real and still be mocked by people who never had the courage to build one of their own. The moment they feel you are trying to move them, they stop evaluating the idea and start defending themselves against you. Your logic becomes an attack. Your advice becomes an insult. Your request becomes a threat to their freedom. And this is where unsupported men lose power. They ask too directly. They explain too much. They beg to be understood by people who have already decided that misunderstanding them is more comfortable. They walk into the room carrying truth, but they deliver it from a weak position. And when truth comes from a weak position, most people do not bow to it. They test it. They doubt it. They delay it. They make the man perform for the right to be taken seriously. That is the trap. You believe the problem is that they do not understand. But often they understand enough. They simply do not want the conclusion to come from you. Because accepting your conclusion would force them to admit that they misjudged you. It would force them to lower their pride. It would force them to see you as someone with authority. And most people would rather resist a useful truth than surrender status to the person who delivered it. So if direct pressure creates resistance, the question becomes darker. How do powerful men make others move without appearing to push? The answer is not force. The answer is not begging. The answer is not emotional pleading. The answer is frame. You do not push the person toward the conclusion. You arrange the evidence so the conclusion appears inside their own mind. And when that happens, they do not feel controlled. They feel intelligent. They feel independent. They feel like they discovered something on their own. That feeling is the leash most people never see. Otto von Bismarck understood this better than most modern influencers ever will. In 1870, he wanted France to move against Prussia. But he could not appear as the aggressor. If Prussia looked like it had started the conflict, the political cost could be severe. So Bismarck did not stand in front of France and say, "Declare war." That would have been crude. That would have exposed the hand. Instead, he shaped the information environment. The Ems telegram was a report about a meeting between King Wilhelm I of Prussia and the French ambassador. Bismarck edited and released a version that made the exchange appear more insulting to the French government. Britannica describes the publication of Bismarck's edited version as a key event that helped precipitate the Franco-German War. Historical records also note that Bismarck edited the report in a way certain to provoke the French, and France declared war only days later. Study the mechanism. Bismarck did not give France an order. He gave France a frame. He did not say, "I want you to fight." He created the conditions where fighting felt like honor. He gave them a corridor and let them walk through it. They believed they were defending themselves. They believed they were choosing. That is advanced influence. The target moves but cannot see the hand. Now bring this down from empires to your life. Your family doubts your ambition. Your friends joke about your plans. People who have never built anything serious speak to you like they are qualified to judge your future. The weak man hears that and says, "You need to respect me." The average man explains why he deserves respect. The strategic man builds visible proof until disrespect becomes socially expensive. He does not ask for belief. He creates conditions where disbelief starts making the other person look foolish. That is the shift. Never give people a conclusion when you can give them evidence and let their ego finish the sentence. If you tell people, "I am disciplined," they test you. If you show them years of discipline, they adjust. If you tell people, "I will be successful," they doubt you. If your work, skill, results, network, body language, and standards all begin moving in one direction, doubt becomes harder to maintain. Same ambition. Different frame. One asks for faith. The other produces pressure. And proof is the cleanest form of pressure because it does not beg. It does not chase. It does not kneel. It simply stands there and forces reality to answer. This is why the unsupported man must stop trying to win emotional trials in front of people who profit from seeing him small. You want your family to see the vision. You want your friends to stop doubting. You want the room to recognize the pressure you have carried alone. So you explain. And explain. And explain. But explanation is often just permission seeking wearing better clothes. You are not explaining because they need more information. You are explaining because some part of you still wants the verdict to come from them. And that is why they hold power over you. The man who needs to be believed can be delayed forever. All someone has to do is doubt him, and he starts performing. He starts justifying. He starts defending a future that does not even exist yet. That is how people keep you small without ever locking a door. They simply make you argue for the right to open it. If you are serious about becoming the kind of man who does not need permission, then understand this. Watching more videos will not save you if you keep living the same weak pattern afterward. You can consume strategy all day and still remain trapped if you never install it into your decisions, your speech, your standards, and your environment. Inside Patreon, I go deeper into the unfiltered principles that cannot be softened for public approval. If you want comfort, stay where you are. If you want to build the kind of mind that stops begging and starts moving with precision, the door is there. The decision is yours. Here is the payoff. If you want people to move differently around you, stop asking them to believe your potential. Turn potential into evidence. Evidence changes the frame. A broke man saying, "I will be rich one day," sounds delusional. A man posting proof of skill, clients, discipline, results, and progress becomes harder to mock every month. The words may be the same. The frame is not. One man is asking the world to believe before reality has changed. The other man is changing reality until belief becomes the natural response. This is why the most dangerous transformation is quiet at first. No announcement, no speech, no emotional performance. Just withdrawal from the old frame. You stop explaining to people who are addicted to doubting you. You stop giving unlimited access to people who treat your presence like a habit. You stop asking for respect from rooms that only understand consequences. Then you build. You build skill until your name starts carrying weight. You build discipline until your behavior becomes harder to dismiss. You build proof until the old version of you becomes impossible to defend. And slowly, the questions around you change. At first they say, "Who does he think he is?" Then they say, "Why is he so quiet now?" Then they say, "What is he working on?" Then they say, "Did we misread him?" That question is power, not because you manipulated them. Because you stopped feeding the version of you they were comfortable controlling. Power does not always begin when people obey you. Sometimes power begins when they can no longer explain you. Because the moment they cannot explain you, they start watching more carefully. And when they start watching more carefully, the frame has already begun to shift. There is another psychological mechanism you need to understand. It is called the Ben Franklin effect. The idea is that when someone does you a favor, they may begin to like you more because their mind needs to justify why they helped you. In 1969, John Jecker and David Landy published a study titled "Liking a Person as a Function of Doing Him a Favor." The study is commonly associated with the Ben Franklin effect. People who performed a personal favor for a researcher later reported liking him more. Now most men hear that and think the lesson is simple: ask for favors. Wrong. That is the surface. The deeper law is this: action can create emotion after the fact. People do not always help because they like you. Sometimes they start liking you because they helped. Their mind looks at the action and asks, "Why did I do that?" Then the ego creates a story. Maybe I respect him. Maybe I see potential in him. Maybe he is worth helping. Maybe I made a smart judgment. That is the hidden mechanism. Human beings protect their investments. And this matters because most unsupported men get the order wrong. They think people must believe in them before they can move. They think people must like them before they can ask. They think someone must recognize their value before they are allowed to step forward. So they wait. They wait for support. They wait for permission. They wait for someone older, richer, stronger, or more established to look at them and say, "Yes, you are ready." But that day may never come. And if it does come, it may come too late. The strategic man does not ask a stranger to change his life. He asks one precise question. He does not beg a mentor for rescue. He asks for one sharp opinion. He does not ask a room to believe in him. He creates a small opening where someone can contribute. Then he executes so well that their small investment looks intelligent. That is how cold attention becomes warm commitment. A person who gives you advice becomes slightly invested in your outcome. A person who helps you take one step starts watching whether the step mattered. A person who contributes to your rise begins to feel that your rise validates their judgment. This is not dependency. This is not manipulation. This is not weakness. This is understanding that people bond with what they invest in. The man who always gives without asking often becomes useful but not respected. He becomes the helper, the available one, the reliable tool. The man everyone calls when they need something, but no one studies when they think about power. But the man who knows how to let others invest in him creates a different kind of bond, not because he is helpless, because he allows the other person to participate in a future that is already moving. That difference is everything. A weak man asks for help because he wants to be saved. A strategic man asks with precision because he is building momentum. A weak man makes his need the center. A strategic man makes the mission the center. A weak man says, "Please believe in me." A strategic man says, "Here is the direction, here is the evidence, here is the one point where your insight can sharpen the blade." That is why the same request can create pity in one man and respect in another. The difference is frame. But there is a deeper layer. The most powerful frame is not the one where they help you. It is the one where they believe your idea came from them. The ego is the most loyal servant in the world, but only to itself. If you tell a person what to do, they evaluate you. If you pressure them, they resist you. If you shame them, they defend themselves. But if they believe they discovered the answer, they become the guardian of that answer. This is why the highest form of influence often has no visible author. The dangerous operator does not say, "Here is what you should think." He says, "Interesting, I noticed this pattern." Then he stops. He does not say, "You should hire me." He says, "Teams usually move faster when one person can turn chaos into execution." Then he shows proof. He does not say, "You should respect me." He removes access, raises standards, builds results, and lets the room feel the cost of underestimating him. 3 points. No conclusion. Let the mind draw the line. Because once they draw it, they own it. And once they own it, they defend it. That is the real meaning of make them think it was their choice. You are not controlling the person. You are controlling the information environment that makes one choice feel natural. But now the blade turns inward. Because if this works on others, it has worked on you. How many desires in your life are really yours? How many were installed by people who needed you predictable? Family says, be realistic. Friends say, do not change too much. Society says, fit in first, dream later. The algorithm says, want this, fear that, compare yourself here, distract yourself there. And eventually, you call their programming your personality. This is the hidden war, not persuasion. Installation. The weak man argues with opinions. The strategic man audits origins. Where did this belief come from? Who benefits if I keep obeying it? Does this desire make me stronger, or does it make me easier to control? That is how you begin taking your mind back. Most men never ask those questions. They defend beliefs they did not choose. They chase goals planted by people they do not respect. They fear judgment from crowds they would never ask for advice. They call it personality. They call it loyalty. They call it being realistic. But often, it is only obedience wearing a familiar face. You were not born wanting to be small. You were trained to make peace with smallness. You were not born needing permission. You were trained to confuse approval with safety. You were not born afraid of being seen. You were trained by environments that punished you when your ambition made others uncomfortable. And once you understand that, you stop treating every thought in your head as sacred. Some thoughts are yours. Some thoughts are inherited. Some thoughts are commands planted so long ago that they now speak with your own voice. That is why frame control must begin inside your own mind. Before you learn how to influence others, you must stop being influenced by the old need to be chosen. Because that need makes you predictable. It makes you easy to delay. It makes you easy to provoke. It makes you explain when silence would be stronger. It makes you chase when distance would create more power. It makes you accept disrespect because you are still hoping the person disrespecting you will one day validate you. That is not patience. That is captivity. If you are serious about changing, stop confusing information with transformation. You have watched enough to know what the problem is. The question is whether you will keep collecting ideas while your behavior stays the same. Inside Patreon, I share the deeper breakdowns, the unfiltered lessons, and the private frameworks for men who are done performing weakness in public. If you keep consuming without acting, another year will pass, and you will still be explaining your potential to people who never intended to honor it. The door is there. The decision is yours. Now understand the final law. The man who controls the frame does not need to control the mouth. He does not talk the most. He does not explain the longest. He does not chase the hardest. He designs the conditions. This is why quiet men can dominate loud rooms. Not because silence is magical. Silence alone means nothing. A silent man with no proof is simply invisible. But silence combined with proof creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people search for meaning. If you are always explaining, they never have to wonder. If you are always available, they never have to value access. If you are always asking, they never have to feel the cost of losing you. But when you stop begging and start building, the frame changes. People begin asking different questions. What is he working on? Why is he moving differently? Why is he not trying to convince us anymore? Did we misread him? That question is power, because it means they are no longer consuming the version of you they already understood. They are now negotiating with a new signal. And the man who becomes a new signal becomes difficult to control. This is the practical formula. First, remove pressure. Pressure creates resistance. Second, build proof. Proof changes perception. Third, plant evidence. Evidence lets the mind reach the conclusion without feeling commanded. Fourth, control access. Access creates value when it is not unlimited. Fifth, let them own the final thought. A person will fight harder for a conclusion they believe they discovered than for any argument you handed them. That is reverse psychology at the strategic level. Not childish contradiction, not saying the opposite of what you want, not cheap tricks. Frame control. The ability to shape the emotional and informational environment before the decision is made. Now look at your life with cold eyes. Where are you still asking too directly? Where are you still begging to be chosen? Where are you still explaining your ambition to people who gain status from doubting it? Where are you still trying to win approval from people who only respect outcomes? That is where your power is leaking, and the leak will not stop until the old need dies. The need to be understood, the need to be validated, the need to have your pain recognized before you act. No one is coming to certify your future. No one is coming to clap for your invisible discipline. No one is coming to announce that you were right all along. You must build the proof first. Then the world adjusts. Isolation becomes discipline. Discipline becomes skill. Skill becomes proof. Proof becomes leverage. Leverage becomes money, power, and freedom. But only if you stop asking the world to believe before you have built the evidence. So here is the command. Stop asking to be chosen. Build the frame where choosing you becomes obvious. Stop begging for belief. Create proof so dense that disbelief becomes embarrassing. Stop trying to control people with words. Control the conditions that make the right conclusion unavoidable. Because people do not resist your idea because it is wrong. They resist it because it came from you. So make it arrive inside their own mind, and let them call it choice.